Hello there, friends, true believers, and newcomers alike. Superfly Comics Guy here, and I thought it would be fun to try something a little bit different today. It's the end of January here. I've been reflecting on 2022, and I thought it would just be nice to do a video like this talking about some of my favorite new reads of 2022. Just open up a discussion with you guys, because hey, maybe some of you are newer to my channel and you missed out on some of my older videos. Pretty simple. The basic rule here is just this has to be new reads only, so I have to have read it for the first time in 2022. So that automatically disqualifies some books like Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1, Batman by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, Daredevil by Bendis, because hey, I love those books, but I didn't read them for the first time in 2022. It's not going to be in any particular order, just books that really left an impression on me. But yeah, just because I've done a review of a book in 2022, it may not be eligible for this list, but hey, if a book is on this list, there will be a review for it that you can check out on my channel. But yeah, I also want to hear from you guys. Let me know what your favorite reads of 2022 were, what you think about some of the books I'm about to talk about, what books maybe you're looking forward to this year. Whatever you want, just leave your thoughts down below, but with that out of the way, let's just have fun and talk about some books together. So up first, we have the Jessica Jones Alias Omnibus by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaydos. Love this direct market cover for this omnibus, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Not in this video. We're here to talk about just the inside, what I thought about the book. Now, I never really knew much about Jessica Jones. I'm a big fan of Daredevil though, especially the Daredevil Netflix series, my goodness. And then when I started getting more into Daredevil comics, I started, recognizing that, Jessica Jones was popping up more and more often. So I got curious about her and I tried her Netflix series for the first time, I want to say sometime in late 2021. And I really loved season 1 of that, especially. And then I saw this was written by Bendis, and I just wanted to give it a try. And man, Jessica here is such an interesting character because, yeah, she does have superpowers, but she's had a rough past, She had a really bad experience that kind of put her off from the whole superheroic stuff. She's become a smoker, she's an alcoholic, she's very, very bitter towards all the superhero stuff. And she opens her own private investigations firm. It's interesting because she's very self-destructive and she acts very disinterested a lot of the time, but you can tell she has this charming side to her that she just wants to help people and do the right thing. This is great. It's crime noir, it's pulp crime, it's a mystery, it's a detective thriller, whatever you really want to call it. But it's set in the Marvel Universe. It really reminds me of something Ed Brubaker would write. So if you're a fan of that type of stuff, I definitely recommend you check this out. The art is just kind of okay though, nothing really that stands out about it, apart from the covers from David Mack. Really, really love those. Now speaking of Ed Brubaker, we got the next book on my list here, which is The Best Cop Show That DC Never Made. This is Gotham Central. So if you're a fan of cop TV dramas, this is the book for you. Because this is Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka teaming up to tell the story of the detectives and officers of Gotham Central. The regular men and women on the force, putting their lives on the line. And I do emphasize regular because these people are living in a city that hosts characters like the Joker, Mr. Freeze, the Mad Hatter, Two-Face. It's one thing for Batman to go up against these villains, but what about regular people? The stakes felt so much higher in this book because of that. They're expendable, and you really come to care about and get attached to characters like Marcus Driver, Rami Chandler, Crispus Allen, and especially Renee Montoya. This book, if you're not already, will make you a Montoya fan. Now, we're sticking to Gotham City for this next entry because we've got Gotham City Sirens. Now, this book completely surprised me. I wasn't even going to pick it up originally because I was actually, at the time, looking for Justice League New 52 or something like that, but I couldn't find that book. And then I ended up seeing this book in InStock Trades' Deals of the Week section on release. It was like 52% off or something like that. But then I saw the artwork and I saw that it was written by Paul Dini, and I was like, I gotta give this a try, and I'm so glad I did. This is Paul Dini writing a tale of Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy coming together, striking an impromptu alliance and living in Gotham City together. And I gotta say, the character work here is superb. Taking three characters who would otherwise usually just be given supporting roles in other series and turning them into protagonists that get a lot more focus. That's awesome. You get to learn a lot more about them, uncover sides of them that you may not have expected. You know, Selena Kyle here, Catwoman, you know, she's trying to back away from the life of crime, trying to go legit where she can. You get to see a genius side of Harley because, you know, she may not seem like the most intelligent person on the surface level, but then you see some of the things she's capable of in this series and some of the plans she pulls off. And then even Poison Ivy, you get to see a more human side of her. Because usually she's very detached from humanity and focused on, you know, plant life and that kind of thing. But no, you really get to explore a different side of her. This really is kind of like, the best way I can put it is Gotham's version of Charlie's Angels. And it is really, really fun. But what I like is that it's not afraid to delve into some really, really dark moments as well. Now, Paul Dini does leave the book partway through, and I was a little worried at the time because everybody says, oh, it's not as good after Paul Dini leaves. But I still found it really, really enjoyable. Yes, it's not quite on the same level, but I was still very entertained by the stories in this omnibus, and these covers are freaking gorgeous by Guillaume March. But also, if you're a fan of thick booties, there's plenty of that in this book as well. Okay, now we're jumping back over to the Marvel side for a little bit with another book that really, really surprised me this year. Moon Knight Omnibus Volume 2. Let's quickly throw off this dust jacket because, man, I love the design under the dust jacket as well. But yeah, towards the beginning of this year, I really wanted to get more into Moon Knight as a character because I had really, really enjoyed the Disney Plus show and the way he was portrayed by Oscar Isaac. He just seemed like a really unique character, you know, this crime fighter, but with this struggle between four different personalities that he had. Now, I picked Volume 2 specifically. Volume 1 was good, I mostly enjoyed it, but you could tell they were still in that awkward beginning phase of the character, still trying to figure out his identity. No pun intended. I mean, I enjoyed the issues of Hulk magazine in that volume, and it definitely started to pick up once Moon Knight got his own solo series. But in Volume 1, there was still a lot of camp. Now, in this book, I feel like Doug Mensch and Bill Sienkiewicz really started to get a better grasp of the character, because Moon Knight's not pursuing some noble cause like justice. He's got issues. He's a violent person and he enjoys what he does. This focuses a lot more on that violent side of the character, his stubbornness, because look, Moon Knight will gladly take 5 punches if it means he can land one big one. Khonshu plays a much bigger role in this series. The relationships with Moon Knight's supporting cast start to become more strained. I really, really enjoyed this book, and hey, it's currently, at the time of recording, 55% off on InStock Trades. So hey, if you're curious to pick it up. And also, it must be mentioned that this is where Bill Sienkiewicz really hits his stride as the artist on this book and finds his own style, exemplified really, really well in this issue here. Hit it. that focuses once again on Moon Knight's dark urges and violent side. Now, I said I couldn't put Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1 on this list because I had read that book before, but that doesn't mean I can't put Miles Morales on this list. But yeah, this was a really important book for me this year, I feel, because when Miles first appeared, I want to say a little over 10 years ago, I did not like him. I was a Miles denier for the longest time. You know, I was like, what's the point of this new character? He's too similar to Peter. He's just a rip-off version of him. He's going through the exact same stuff. And I said all that without reading any of his stuff. But after watching Into the Spider-Verse and playing the newest Spider-Man video games on PlayStation, that opened my eyes to how great of a character he can be. And that led to me giving this a shot. And it's written by Brian Michael Bendis, who I usually enjoy. And man, I was so wrong, and boy do I feel like a fool for having that opinion that I did, because yes, Miles is similar to Peter, it's true, but he's not there to take anything away from Peter and that whole legacy. Miles is there to support that, to show what it means to be Spider-Man. He's got his own supporting cast, his own set of unique powers. But with that comes his own share of struggles, his own share of personal tragedies, and yes, as we know, his own responsibilities. He's just a kid. He's doing his best to help people and make a difference, and that makes him really endearing. And yeah, this really taught me not to be so quick to judge something on gut reaction alone. Alright, up next, as many of you probably know, Spidey's my favorite character. But I didn't want to flood this whole list with Spidey books. So instead, I decided to talk about all of them at once. What do I mean by that? Well, this is Spider-Man Life Story. This is Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley teaming up to tell, as the name implies, Spidey's life story. Because hey, Spider-Man's been around since the 1960s, but he's not in his 60s or 70s today, so this book tells the story of all of those previous Spider-Man comics as if Spider-Man was aging in real time. So, you know, he's in his teens in the 60s. In the 70s, he would be in his 20s. In the 80s, he would be in his 30s, and so on. And I gotta say, this is a Spidey comic fan's dream, because each decade features an important story from that decade of Spidey comics. So in the 60s, you know, you have things like Flash going off to fight in the Vietnam War. In the 70s, you have the story of Peter and Gwen. In the 80s, you have the black suit, and that really messes up Peter's life. And they even touch on the Clone Saga in the 90s. And look, you don't have to know everything about Spidey to enjoy this, but the more familiar you are with his big stories from each respective decade, the more you'll get out of this book for sure, because this is a love letter to Spider-Man's history over the years, and it's a letter that should be signed, sealed, and delivered right to your door if you are a huge Spider-Man fan. Alright, we're swinging back over to the DC side with one of my favorite New 52 books that I've read, and that is Batgirl Returns by Gail Simone. Man, I loved this book so freaking much. So, this takes Barbara Gordon, who hasn't been Batgirl for a good long while, ever since the events of The Killing Joke, where she was paralyzed from the waist down. You know, she was Oracle instead for a long time. But in the New 52 here, thanks to an experimental treatment, this puts her back on her feet and back in the cowl. But in my opinion, it does this without disrespecting Barbara's history as Oracle. She still has PTSD from The Killing Joke. She hasn't been Batgirl for a really long time, so she's out of practice and second-guessing herself really early on. But over time, she has to rise to the challenge and once again become the Batgirl that Gotham deserves. And at first glance, the villains in this omnibus, in these stories, might not seem that impressive to you, but what I really love about what Gail Simone did with this is how each villain in here represents a different personal challenge for Batgirl to overcome, such as how she views herself, her physical training and how she needs to get better at that, her PTSD from the Killing Joke, her strained relationship with her father. Each little story arc feeds into another challenge, and I love that so much. And also, this book is not afraid to get dark. It veers into horror at times, which I thought worked so well. And speaking of things that work so well, the art is phenomenal. It cycles artists quite a lot, but it's consistently good. I never had a moment in here where I did not like the art. All right, last book, guys. Of all the books on this list, this is the blockbuster action movie that just makes you want to cheer and shove popcorn in your face. Okay, maybe not popcorn. Nobody wants greasy pages in their omnibus, right? But here we go. This is Brian Michael Bendis once again. You sensing a theme here with the authors? But yeah, this is the period in the 2000s that really shook up the Avengers team and turned them into a proper A-list team, from what I understand anyway. Because at the beginning, a catastrophic event happens that forces most of the classic team to disband. But hey, the world still needs heroes. So this calls for a new team, a new era, because now you get characters like Spider-Man and Wolverine properly on the team for the first time, because, you know, Spidey's been usually more of a solo guy and Wolverine's been usually more tied with the X-Men. But this creates a really interesting dynamic because you get so many new character interactions here that you may not have been used to seeing if you were coming from the older classic comics. I particularly enjoyed Spidey's banter with the rest of the team. Bendis is just really good at writing a funny Spider-Man. But this is, I think, really good for MCU fans too, because you know, the team is just going on missions together. A civil war happens partway through this book. You see the formation of the Illuminati, and this whole vibe, for me, it just reminded me of my days playing the Ultimate Alliance video game on my PS2 back in the day. Good times. I really hope this book gets reprinted, and I really, really hope we get further volumes to complete the series. And once again, some phenomenal art. You're getting artists like David Finch, Lionel Francis Yu, Mark Silvestri, Frank Cho. It's just stellar art, basically all throughout this omnibus. But that'll do it for me for now, guys. This is by no means an exhaustive list. This is just some of the books that left the strongest impressions on me that I read in 2022. But let me know if you think I missed anything. Let me know what are your favorite books that you read last year. Do you agree with any of my picks? And let me know what books you're looking forward to most this year. Of course, if you want any more detail about any of these books, because this wasn't meant to be a review, you can check out any of the reviews I've done on these books on my channel. But that'll do it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to catch you guys in another video real soon. So you have yourself a great day. I've been Superfly Comics Guy, and until next time, keep reading, guys. See ya.